How did I let you talk me into this? Little Pip shrieked as the first wave of screaming, clawing ghouls came charging at us. Her revolver, a sweet, custom-modified IF-18 horseshoe that I slightly wanted to snuggle even while fighting for my life, barked and transformed the head of the monstrosity slashing against my upraised hooves into twitching corpse meat. I heaved the body away from me and onto a crowd of 3 more. It was amazing. Think about walking, fall on face. Don't think about it, because you're too busy dealing with dozens of shrieking zombies while inebriated. Limbs work fine, which was a very good thing. One ghoul opened its mouth wide as it lunged, and I reared on my back legs and punched my hoof through its maw. The combined momentums drove my hoof out the back of its head. Rotting brain smeared it as I pivoted on my rear legs and threw the corpse at the 3 scrambling to their feet. "Hey, this is your secret passage," I shouted as another ghoul lunged in low, and I leapt over its snapping jaws. All 4 legs came straight down on its head, and the zombie's skull popped like a rotten apple. "I wanted to levitate you down from the roof, but no!" The trio of ghouls rose a 3rd time, but 3 blasts from Little Macintosh transformed their skulls into bony, goop-covered shrapnel. "You don't like heights." Spent revolver casings popped into the air and got turned into hot brass projectiles, briefly driving one of the zombies back into the blasted subway tunnel it'd been crawling out of. "I'm sorry, not all of us fly everywhere in sky wagons, okay?" I yelled as another group crawled out of a hole in a rusted sewer grate. I hooked my forelegs on either side of the gap and swung in. My rear legs pistoned wildly as they hammered into whatever soft undead flesh made itself available. I suggested getting Lacuna, but no! You don't like alicorns. "They're monsters!" Little Pip shouted as her horn flared and scraped a fallen piece of roof along the side of the subway. The block of rubble was easily as big as I was and tore through an emerging ghoul in half as she loaded another 6 rounds into the revolver. "It wasn't an option, okay?" She whirled and placed 3 shots into the head of a glowing ghoul. Its head exploded like a fountain of luminescent snot. "You were the one who insisted on doing this in the first place," she yelled as she backed towards me while I scrambled away from the sewer grate and into the middle of the subway passage, tackling a zombie that had been about to snap at her flank. "You said you had to do it. No friends, remember?" I said as I hooked a foreleg around his mouth, like a bridle, gripping it with my hind legs. I retched as hard as I could and was rewarded by the head coming off in my hooves. "So then you say, oh, there's a secret passage in the basement. We can get out that way. Only a few ghouls." She worked her arcane sciencey magic on the terminal beside the door and managed to override the lockout. Neat trick. I'd ask her to teach P-21 if we made it out of here alive. I threw the head as hard as I could into another charging zombie. It broke the creature's run just enough for me to bring both metal hooves down on its head with a pulpy crunch. "This is more than a few." Little Pip carefully planted 3 more shots in the zombies coming out of the side tunnel as we moved towards the head subway car. The tunnel was lit by sickly green radiance of even more glowing ghouls. "Well, you said there were more. There were fun." A ghoul scrambled on its back, its jagged hooves hooking into her reinforced utility barding. Her horn glowed as she lifted the monster into the air, and there was a crack as the entire creature was squeezed, then threw the crushed remains back down the tunnel behind us. "Little Pip, I'm drunk," I yelled before biting hard on a length of rebar and striking a chunk of rubble on the end like a club. The weight knocked back 3 more of the screaming monsters. "No, you're crazy," she yelled back as she looked around. Okay, this was rapidly getting past dozens into fucking ridiculous numbers. What, had Tenpony been built right on top of Manhattan Ghoul Central? "Get in the subway car, hurry!" Well, it was better than my plan to hit them some more. Somewhere in the process of planning this adventure, I'd trot off without barding, gun, or even saddlebags. No, the only piece of equipment I'd brought were the bottles of whiskey tied together around my neck like some sort of tribal good luck charm. It seemed funny at the time. I scrambled in first. One ghoul charged down the aisle at me. I hooked my forelegs into the seats, swung my back legs up, and smashed both rear hooves into its head. Then, of course, I landed flat on my back next to the wiggling corpse. I smashed my legs down on its head repeatedly, looking at little Pip upside down as the small unicorn hopped in after me. Okay, now what? She tossed little Macintosh at me. I caught it in my forelegs and transferred it to my mouth, sitting up. A ghoul was thrashing its way through the doors at the other end of the car. "No ticket!" I shouted, before hopping into Sats and planting one of the revolver's heavy bullets into its skull. Actually, what I really said was, "No ticket," with lots of slobber, but it wouldn't have known the difference anyway. As I pulled myself to my hooves, the subway car lurched, a glow that spread from little Pip's horn to envelop the massive vehicle. The wheels underneath squealed, and there was a metallic bang as something broke underneath the car. With a scream of metal and rust, the subway car broke free of the rest and began to roll down the decayed tracks. Of course, there were still ghouls leaping onto the side of the rolling car, pulling themselves free through the windows. I raced from one to the next, little Macintosh blasting their skulls into fragments until the hammer fell on an empty casing. No problem. Have hooves, we'll thrash. Ghouls fell beneath the screeching, grinding wheels, and chunks of undead splattered at the pursuing crowd. A few more tried to scramble on. I manually persuaded them to get the hell off. In a minute, we'd left the undead behind, and I'd finished off anything still wiggling. Little Pip gaped as she looked at me a touch wild-eyed. She levitated the gun from my mouth, winkling her nose at my drool. "This is one of the crazier things I think I've done," she yelled over the shrieks as we rolled along. I took a long pull off one of the bottles of whiskey, watching the text on my EFS warning me of the drunk toxicity that my system was trying to purge. "Really? I thought it was Tuesday." "So, why is it you couldn't bring your friends along?" I asked as we made our way through the subway station. "I mean, Zenith I can understand. She has that whole I can kill you with a hoof vibe going. Calamity seemed okay, though. And Velvet seemed nice, even if she got that whole bossy mama bear thing going for her." Little Pip was drinking a healing potion she'd found locked in a medical supply cabinet. The sight of it had floored me. Healing potions as fresh as you please, even after 2 centuries. Sweet Celestia, something obscene, something... Where did Little Pip learn to swear like that? And Hoovington suck. She sighed as she looked at the empty potion bottle. "It's complicated. I'm going up against 2 monsters, and each one wants me to destroy the other. Both have armies and power, and one can't even read minds." Ouch. I winced, then extended my fingers to carefully pick up a piece of scrap metal. "Eat, huh?" I tried to bite it in half. Nothing. Finally, I stuck the chunk in my mouth and felt a strange warmth. The rusty lump softened to the consistency of taffy. Tasted pretty good, too. I smiled as I chewed the lump of metal and swallowed, then caught Little Pip's shocked stare. Okay, maybe it was a little freaky. "What? I'm on an iron diet." She snorted, and I smiled as I took another drink. "Well, if I take Calamity along and he gets too close, and he gets his mind read, then it's game over." She sighed, then floated my offered bottle over and took a drink herself. "Velvet Remedy? Well..." A small smile spread on her face. "She's a special kind of girl. She wants to help every pony she can, even slavers and monsters, and every pony. So if she knew what I was going to do, well, I don't know, she might try to stop me." "And Zenith?" I asked with a smile. "Same deal as Calamity? Or would she headbutt the beastie?" She looked a little sad, then a little guilty. "Pretty much." "So once you get the bomb, then what?" "Then?" She smiled. "Then I blow Red Eye's citadel to the moon. I think it's the most you should know." She wasn't telling me something, but then she fought mind-reading things. I imagined great big tentacle brain monsters. Ooh, or maybe magical computer things. I chuckled, taking a drink. Considering the shit I'd dealt with, Who was I to insist she tell me more? Then she gave me a small, thankful smile. Thanks for helping me with this blackjack. Thanks for giving me something to do, I said with a laugh. Shoot at me, stab me, or fuck me. Do whatever you want to do. Don't let me think. She blushed. Why was she blushing? Why was she acting all glorious? So, next part of the plan? I asked with a smile, as I stood and turned towards the doors leading outside. We make like the stable dweller, you drop a building on them, and I thump anything that's wiggling, right? Then I blinked when she didn't call me an idiot, or laugh. I looked back at her, and... was she staring at my ass? Little Pip? Maybe she really liked my hardware. She snapped to and looked at me. Wow, she blushed just like Glory. Right, the plan. The planning things with the, planning stuff. plan. Was she actually checking me out? Celestia. Something. She had been, and I couldn't help smiling. I could count the number of mayors interested in me. Well, honestly interested rather than planning to sell me out, on one hoof. I turned slowly towards her and watched her eyes get big as she gave me a crooked smile. Little Pip, I said as I leaned towards her. I'm sorry. Her ears fell. But I'm just not drunk enough to think this is a good time, with the surgery and mission and everything. Wow, I didn't know a pony could achieve that shade of red. Oh, I mean, I shouldn't... She started to babble. So, I kissed her. I was also quite delighted to discover she was an exceptionally sweet and adorable kisser, and despite how embarrassed she was, she definitely kissed back. Now she was red and stiff as stone. I imagined breakers blowing in her head. Celestia's flaming cunt drips, she muttered, then sighed and rolled her eyes. Have I no fucking self-control? But I am drunk enough that one kiss seems okay. I pointed out with a laugh as I walked to the door. You grew up in the wrong stable, Little Pip. If you were really into mares, you should have been in 99. She snapped out of it a second later. Yeah, but didn't you say it was a horrible, brutal rape factory or something? Did I mention that? I told her something about 99 like that. My brain was a mite fuzzy, but the alcohol was definitely lubricating the whole walking thing. Well, yeah, it was. But for a mare that really likes other mares, well, I looked right at her with a wide smile that I think set her blush in stone. I think you'd have fit in just fine. I'd love to have had you in my stable. Then I took a deep breath. Anyway, don't you have a leader to sweet talk? She stared at me, then shook her head hard. Right. With the talkie, sneaky, plan thing. She thumped her temples lightly. Next time you want to mess with me, could you, I don't know, just shoot me? Kissing you was funner. Oh my, there she went again. Didn't any pony ever hit on this mare? Sure, she was insanely gorgeous, but she was outrageously cute. Okay, so we got to trot up close enough to speak to some pony in charge without getting shot at. Yeah, and the camp's huge. I don't know if I have a stealth buck that'll last that long. So, plan B. She blinked and looked at me warily. I'm not sure I want to know.